Hello, my name is Seven. Um, I used to play Pyro in UGC Platinum for a while, a long time, where I was pretty good, and I recently came back to the game after around 6 or 7 years to play some RGL Advanced with my friends. Upon posting a POV to YouTube, I had a commenter named Froglvvr who was pretty forthright in telling me that American RGL players are nothing compared to the majesty that is Ozfortress. If you don't know, that's Australia. Australia is a pretty interesting country. They have a pretty good healthcare system, public transportation, and their big metros. But I wasn't really aware of how good they were at Team Fortress 2, so I pulled a random demo and I wanted to see just how good they were. I didn't know if I was qualified to do this, but I recently got a 172 on my LSAT. So that's the law school admissions exam in the United States with a perfect reading comprehension section. So I thought maybe I would be qualified to gauge, just how extraordinary this gameplay is. So I pulled a random demo on Ashville, and what I like to do first is look at the scouts, because I think how good the scouts are is probably a pretty good gauge of like just how good the league we're dealing with is here. It's the most important dynamic class generally in TF2 and Highlander. It's so important. So without further ado, let's just look just to see how good Oz Fortress really is, and I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. Bring up that good old demo UI and hit resume. This is Choose Poke on the blue team. Or rather Tom, that's his name. So he's rolling out. His movement's a little stilted. I don't know what that's about. Gets on the roof. Kind of struggles a little bit here with this soldier, but he does take him out. The heavy misses every shot on him. Kind of standing still here a little. Gets on roof. Standing still again. He's kind of moving really slow. He just sort of kind of sits there. He goes to the telly, and then he sacrifices his life for the teleporter. So bear in mind that I think I have it here. In 1996, in Australia, a guy named Martin Bryant killed 35 people and wounded 23 others in what's called the Port Arthur Massacre, the old Port Arthur historic site in Tasmania. I think what we're seeing is that was the second worst thing to ever happen to Australia, with this probably being the worst. Although I'll grant that if one of these players had been the shooter, nobody would have died at Port Arthur. So that's something to keep in mind. But now we can go, I think, to the beginning of the demo again and look at Froglvvr's POV now that we have, our reference point.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So this is him. Froglvvr claims that RGL pyros in general are far, far worse than anyone in Ozfortress. Bear in mind, this is Ozfortress main. It's not the good division. We'll look at his mastery over the map. So right here on this mid, I mean, his team's kind of playing pretty bad, but, I guess he's doing alright. He reflected bombs from the soldier. Now, the most important thing you can do on Ashville is pyro. Even more important than spy checking is watching the roof, because the roof is where people bomb over. So given Froglvvr's mastery of the game, I'm expecting him to be looking at the roof right now, or soon rather, just to make sure that he protects his med, protects him from sacks, the rest of it. That's going to be really, really important. Oh. Well, I guess that was a little unlucky. He wasn't really watching the roof there, so the soldier bombed in and forced his med. Not great, but, you know, let's see how he does against these pub players. Alright, he's spy checking some more. He's on the point. Interestingly, the heavies here seem like they don't hit any of their bullets for their tracking, so that's something to keep note of. Again, he's not watching the roof there. He's kind of spy checking but not paying attention to it. If the soldier were competent, that would be a really big problem. Here, he forces an Uber and the other team just kind of stands still. I don't really know what that's about. Kind of nice flare there. I'll give him that. So now he's going back up the ramp and instantly gets killed by a hiding heavy. Overall, not really a great life. He wasn't paying attention to roof, and I think was sort of salvaged by the fact that that soldier is just not very good. But in general, if you don't watch roof fastidiously, you're kind of throwing this whole map, because that's the most important thing. So right here, he's on point again, just spy checking. Now, where should he really be watching? He should be watching the roof. Not just spy checking, but really keeping an eye on that roof. That roof is really important, because people can bomb over it. Oh! And he, again, was not watching the roof. Kind of just let the soldier do whatever he wanted. Sort of interesting. I think that's around 3 times he just wasn't watching the roof. So, hopefully by now his medic is telling him, hey, Froglvvr, I like you, you're a great guy. We both live in a very interesting country with cities like Darwin and Broome, and even Brisbane and the Gold Coast. But you better watch that roof, because if you don't watch that roof, the soldier is gonna bomb me and die. So right now, Froglvvr is doing something interesting, where he, again, isn't really watching for bombs. Luckily, that soldier, you know, again, not very good, but again, you know, his med's dead. So I guess it wasn't very lucky that time, actually. Really, he's not getting very lucky here. He's just sort of he's not watching for what he's supposed to be watching. And here he's doing an interesting strat where he just stays on battlements and kind of uselessly spams flares onto point. And where I'm from in RGL, you'd take 1,000,000 damage doing this, but it seems like the other team doesn't really have the wherewithal to do that. He then tries running across the point and gets sniped. So overall, not a hugely successful set of lives for Froglvvr. He seems to have, kind of okay-ish flare mechanics, but not, a thorough understanding of this map. So actually, on the LSAT, I sort of choked the first logical reasoning section. Not because I was nervous, but I was just sort of tired. I hadn't gotten a whole lot of sleep before. So that's something to keep in mind. The 172 could have been like a 175 or a 176, but I mean, law school admissions are kind of fucked right now anyway, so I don't really know if I'm even going to use that test to do anything. Here again, he's sort of checking roof occasionally. I think this is the first time he actually did check roof, was paying attention to it for the sack. So, so that's important. That's good. That's like an improvement from his last few lives. If you're wondering why the pressure just seems really low, in general on both teams, it's because these players are really fucking terrible. They're awful. This is maybe as good as the players were when I played Silver, 10 years ago. So that's something to keep in mind. Nice flare on that NG. Incredible. That was really good. Yep, here he is DMing the Pyro again. So that was definitely, I think, his best life thus far, for sure. You know, that was good. But in general, I mean, look, I'm a few minutes into this demo, guys. I am not impressed with Ozfortress. This kind of feels a little more like a pub than anything else. Um, I just am not seeing the kind of typical meta, the pressure, like good bombs, really anything like that. Um, you know, here, yeah, he's just kind of taking a lot of useless damage, but that happens sometimes in this map. Um, you know,
Mission ends in
it
30
happens.
seconds.
Apparently at Port Arthur, the shooter, there were people begging for their lives, and the shooter just, like, he mercilessly kind of shot them anyway, which is super fucked up. Um, so that's something. You know, not being on the point here, wrapping, sort of not a great decision, but his team wins anyway, so I guess it's sort of okay. That didn't really matter very much. So his team wins the first round, so we'll have to see how the second round goes. Alright, here we go. Let's see what he can do. Alright. Looks up this time. Huge, massive improvement. Doesn't hit the reflex, but I mean, that's okay, just in general. So that soldier dies. So his team should be in a pretty good position to take the point. He's standing still right here. Sort of an interesting choice, but I guess if their sniper's dead. I mean, yeah, this something like that would get you killed really, really quick when the div I play in, but I am only the 4th best pyro according to the spreadsheet, so I don't know. It kind of seems like the other team doesn't, they just don't seem to have very good DM. So here he's doing some pretty good spy checking. That's very important on the pyro class. Now his team uses in, and it's a counter Uber. He spy checks his scout and tries shooting him in the middle of the Uber, which is a really great decision. He then makes the brilliant decision. This is a really fucking terrible play. So what he does here is an interesting strat where he baits his team and doesn't kite for them at all. He just, you know, he just lets them die rather than kiting and shutter when he hides in under. But he then comes back and kills the other players because they're so bad that none of this really fucking matters. But in general on this map, if you, like, abandon your team when they're going out shutter and go under, like if you were playing against competent players, that's basically one of the worst plays you can make, to just not kite at all. So, you know, but who doesn't love baiting their team? Again, very high quality gameplay here.
Alert. The control point is being contested.
Again, lots of standing on battlements and, like, no punishment at all. Like, usually the sniper would punish you a lot more, but again, this is Ozfortress main where no one's really good at the game. So, you know, that's something to consider. Their team makes the absolutely brilliant decision to Uber a scout in through shutter, which gets absolutely nothing. It gets stuffed. But of course, the other team's heavy is allowed to just go under Blues Bats, because this is, I mean, this is fucking better than any RGL game I've ever seen. I mean, this is the pinnacle of TF2 gameplay right here. And again, we see a big bomb. This time he is looking up, but, you know, he can't really stop it. Again, you know, just not looking that great. Here, Froglvvr expertly DMs this scout rather than not taking that fight because it's Pyro v Scout. Although, again, he might be used to in Ozfortress really, really bad scouts that can't hit their shots. That's generally not a fight that I would take without getting two-shot by some of the with some of the RGL advanced scouts. Once again, he is not watching the roof at all, just not watching it, which is a huge mistake. His med lives from those bombs anyway. I don't know if the scout's going to get him, but his med lives in spite of that, and definitely not because of that. Like, I can't emphasize enough, if you have one job on this map, it's to make sure that shit like that just gets shut down way faster. It kind of almost feels like he's baiting his team for frags. And now he's on the jetpack and the extinguisher because this is a really serious league where the quality of play is just so much better. I mean, just really, really good. So, just something to consider, that if you've ever thought, I don't think RGL is good enough, I think Ozfortress is much better. Hopefully this video kind of serves as a corrective to that. So 2 of Brian's victims were actually known to him personally, and they were killed at Seascape, which is a bed and breakfast property. But the majority of victims were killed in a shooting spree at the Port Arthur Historic Site, a popular tourist destination. Using 2 semi-automatic rifles, he began his attack at a small cafe before moving to a nearby gift shop, killing 20 people indiscriminately in a short span of time. Many others were killed at the site's car park, including several children. After killing its 4 occupants, Brian stole a vehicle at the site's toll booth and drove to a nearby service station, where he killed a woman and abducted her partner. He continued to fire at passing vehicles before returning to Seascape with his hostage, who was then killed. He set fire to the property but was captured the following morning. And this is how you know the fact that he's running, like, the jetpack and extinguisher. This is how you know that the players he's playing are totally not, like, shitty pubbers. That they're, like, really good. They're really good. This is a really good league. This is an incredibly good league. Do you guys think KD is going to rank, like, top 10 all time when all is said and done? Could be top 5 given how efficient he is.
point is being captured. We have lost the control point. Alert. The control point is being contested. The control point is being captured.
Brian pleaded guilty to the killings and received 35 life sentences without parole. His motives have been subject to debate. The massacre led to a reassessment of Australia's gun laws by the newly elected Howard government. The National Firearms Agreement between state and federal governments was announced within 2 weeks of the massacre, establishing heavy restrictions on the use of automatic and semi automatic weapons, and creating a gun buyback program, a national gun registry, and a waiting period for firearms sales.